Do we have a,
We don't vote at this meeting. This is a non-voting meeting, right?
correct, so if this is a work session, it's a non-voting meeting, but with Mike on the phone, do we have a quorum to begin the meeting, or are we short?
Yes, we do.
Ah.
We do.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, Ray's here. Thank you, Ray.
Tuesdays are great for me.
Well, I'm
The
glad.
Monday, oh, and we got even another.
Oh, great.
Who always here on your?
Six of us. Guys, you wanna say hello to Mike?
Yes, Scott Schaefer.
Don Clark,
Mark Manley,
Ray Honey.
Martha. Okay,
Okay. Martha, your meetings, you have the minutes and, from the last meeting and.
well, I guess so. I don't know, a work session, what do we don't really.
So we would still begin the meeting, as normal, there's just no votes to do. So we call the meeting to order to record the times, do the roll call to show we have a quorum of people here, and then proceed with the agenda.
Okay.
I was at the July 15th.
Wait. Who would like to call the meeting? Should we call the meeting to order?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we, okay, do I just call it to order or do we have to have a motion or do we?
No, you can just call the meeting to order at 9 o'clock and then do a roll call
Okay.
to show quorum.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get myself together.
Take your time.
Okay, the meeting is called to order at 9:03. And we'll have a roll call.
Scott Schaefer.
Scott,
Don Clark,
Mark Manning. Ray Honey.
Martha Ashley. Mike,
Michael.
okay, Michael. Okay, and so the only person missing is Vicky
and David.
and David. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes from the last work session?
I'll make a motion.
Add my name to him. I was here.
Okay, we have motion, second,
I'll second.
Well, he's not on the,
I'll put him on there.
okay.
Okay, so
All
I
approved.
all approved,
Aye.
Aye.
okay. Okay, so I guess we should continue with what we were doing. At the last meeting, we were going through the Ruidoso DSO and suggesting some changes. I suppose we should continue with that,
So
you, Jay?
I'll apologize, I was not here at the last meeting, so do you mind a brief update on how far you got at the last meeting and where we're picking up?
You bet. At the last meeting, we went through and looked at things that would or would not apply to Angel Fire. And we had Brian Lindsay to help us out, being a forester, because we don't know a lot of the terms and not all of the real things that we needed to know. We have Chris here today. That's gonna be a big help, having Chris Momo. So we went through, you'll see on the copy that I gave you, I marked out some things. We added new wording, which would show up in this black and white as a little lighter font, because it doesn't show color. You can go through there and see what we looked at. we really liked the drawings they had, that helped a lot to have the diagrams. We did not really look at some of the discussion about utilities, thinking that perhaps that's not our purview. Rocky did say, yes, we probably should look at it because we're trying to work together as multiple committees. And it all comes together into one. So what you get, what we do affects every other committee that the village has now. So that's where we are. Jake, I sent you a copy, but you may not have.
That's okay.
Okay. Questions?
I made a suggestion about, there are a couple suggestions in here about aspen trees, and I noticed, and I only put it in there just so we could discuss it.
Good.
Not what really saying anything, but I was hoping that Brian would be here. It's great we have Chris here, could comment on it, and I'm assuming, Chris, you've had a chance to read through this.
A little bit, I'm sorry, I didn't get to go
And-
through all of
Here
it.
you go.
And there's no mention at all about aspen trees in the Ruidoso
Yeah.
plan. And I've never been down there, I don't know, maybe they don't have them. But they are, I've heard in the past that they are generally not looked, frowned upon as a fire danger as much as conifers.
Correct.
And so I just wonder how that should be put in here. I tried to find other examples from other communities, how they looked upon them. You know, we have, you know, the 10-foot section between the building and, you know, out 10 feet. Now, are some aspen allowed in that? Or are we gonna stick with the same idea that nothing flammable in that first 10 feet? And then, and so on out.
Yeah,
Um,
and the only real time that, you know, it's gonna be an issue is when there's a stand, like a big stand of them. So, you know, it is a, you know, fire adapted species. So I think we could recommend that we leave it in there. You know, one thing I've been looking at when I do my assessments in the village is the contractors, I'm not sure if they know. And don't, I'm not trying to knock on them, but some of them might not know what they're doing. Cause they're leaving just nothing with aspen. I mean, they could still leave one or two conifers in there and still be fire adaptive. But then,
Excuse me, Jim, are you talking about the contractors that are doing thinning?
yeah, some of
Okay,
them,
thank you,
yeah.
thank you.
Because most of the properties I'm going to, that's all that's left. And that's not really good, you know, for the, you know, for the area, for the property, for the ecosystem. So I think we could recommend that they leave these fire resilient species intact, but also leave a few others, you know. But I'm not sure about that 10-foot area, you know, that might be a little bit more gray area.
So, I mean, doesn't or can't, you know, crown fire, if it approaches a property, continue with the stand of aspen?
Like I said, if it's like a continuous stand, yes. If it's like one or two, no. Even with a, you know, one or two conifers, you know, it's not gonna be as steady pace as the rate of spread of like something continuing. So if we're practicing good thinning concepts on the property, I'm not sure why people are just clear cutting their areas. It just doesn't make sense to me. However, you know, I'm going and doing the property assessments in and around Angel Fire, and the insurance companies are really sticklers about, they don't want like nothing around within 100 feet. So that's pretty much, in some cases, some people's whole way of living, you know, whole property. And that's not right either. So I'm kind of, go ahead.
I said, I'm of the opinion, I think I expressed it earlier, that simpler we keep this, the better, you know, KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid, and I'm just one that says, you know, don't distinguish between them.
Yeah, because if we start saying this is okay and that's not okay,
Yeah.
I agree with you, Mike. And aspen trees do burn. I think we apply the same concepts to every type of tree, except we did talk about the shorter decorative trees.
No, just in the past, previous fire chief publicly said aspens are a good barrier. He pointed out a slope, we went outside, looked up on the mountain. And he said that slope to a firefighter, a wildland firefighter, is gonna help us control the spread of a fire, and it's one of those aspen parks up in the
Yeah,
aspen.
yeah.
And he pointed out that aspens are mostly water, and anybody that's cut down a green aspen knows that. They're just, and yes, they will burn
They do
in an
burn.
intense fire, but they will act as a buffer.
And some of them, when they get old, really burn.
Yeah,
When
but,
they die.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well-
that comes under dead trees.
Exactly.
That's
yeah,
under
no,
dead trees.
Right,
So my point is, again, around the house, like you said, the insurance companies, they don't care what kind of tree it is.
Yeah, yeah,
They want everything out of there.
yeah.
But I think that the aspens are, you know, there's some places up there where they stand after the 98 fire. The first thinning that was done up
Yeah,
above you.
yeah.
And they left the chips on site. I think Ogeen did it, I'm not sure,
I think you're right.
but they just left the aspens, and you go up there now, and that's a park.
It
And the
is
grass is this high,
pretty.
and they did leave some conifers, the healthy ones to mingle around. That, to me, is a property that should be the showcase.
Well, I think that what Scott recommended, if you look at A1F. You put in there just consideration will be given for aspen trees near a house. And what Brian Lindsay said last week was that, and I think Mike agrees with this too, we can't be so prescriptive and so solid because really the experts have to go to each location and each location has its own, you know, its own requirements. And so I think it would be good to put something in there where maybe we say consideration will be given to aspen trees near a house. I don't know, Scott.
Well, I think a couple of things. Ruidosa does not have near the aspen trees that we do. Second of all, Ruidosa is not aiming at a strict fire-wise setup.
Right,
They are doing these on a case by case, because just like Angel Fire, they had a lot of homes that were sited with mature trees nearby on purpose. And they found that if they tried to remove every tree within a certain distance of the structure, their compliance rates were garbage. It was basically not worth the time.
right.
So they treated each individual one. Obviously, if you're gonna have a home near a tree, they did ask for ladder fuels and some consideration, not be stacking things around. So again, you're not gonna craft the perfect ordinance. Nobody is that will apply to every lot or every home in Angel Fire. The hope here is that we get started and get better at this as we go, but compliance has to be considered. If we're trying to tailor an ordinance that's not going to allow for any trees within 10, 20, 30 feet of a home, we're gonna be ignored by the vast majority of our part-timers.
Yeah,
Because again, one thing, and I apologize for not being here last time, the only thing that council is ready to support at this time is something that does a voluntary clearing of lots. That we are looking to reduce your wildland fees if you have a certified lot. We are going to be at least 2 years away from any type of consideration of finding authority. For a couple of reasons. One, we're gonna have to build up the ordinance. Two, we're gonna have to have people trained and certified and create the certified lot process. And three, and most importantly, we're also gonna have to make sure we have a process in place to get rid of the material. We've been working on an RFP to go out hopefully fairly soon to chip all of the old material in the pit out by Chief Romo and Solid Waste out there. We have, we believe, 2 interested vendors in coming through and doing that. But we don't know how much material even a voluntary process is gonna create. And what none of us wanna do is create a process for two things. There's two things that are gonna break this. One is we create so much material that we have to shut it down again. None of us wanna do that. And two, obviously, we wanna be mindful that we're not trying to get to where the resort or large landowners have this huge bill that's gonna come due in some short
Yeah,
time.
we made that very clear, yes.
So again, everything here needs to be tailored towards. All we're hoping to do is convince even 10% more of lot owners that, hey, please go spend these some thousands of dollars to bring your lot into compliance. And for that, you're going to see a $10, $20, $30 a month reduction in your wildland fees. How many lots we get to do that voluntarily is
Could be
anyone's guess. It could be
10%.
10, it could be 100. But the sooner that we can create this certification and material process, the sooner we can figure out where, where it's gonna break down.
But
and
the
where we
council
change.
does want to have a defensible space ordinance,
Correct,
but how it's applied is up to council.
correct.
So
And,
what we're doing here in the work session is that we're just crafting one based on a really good one. right?
correct.
And we're not trying to do anything more than that, hand it off to you all and you take it.
The other part of that will be, there's gonna be a little bit of a learning process. We hope, and we think Ruidoso would be amenable to letting any of our personnel that are gonna be involved in lot certification go down to Ruidoso and see how they do that process. Exactly. So the closer our ordinance is to matching theirs, the easier that transition is going to be. Obviously, it can't be a word for word because our sections don't line up with their sections, so we're gonna have to tailor it to our ordinances a little bit. But having that path to get, Chief Romo or whoever is going to be doing that certification on the front end, as Captain Romo said, you have some contractors that are cutting more trees out than they need to, and some that maybe not cutting enough. So there's gonna be a couple of
Is that
seasons.
what you want?
Yes,
That's what you want.
correct. Now, there's some other things that Ruidoso does that we'd like to get to that we're not ready for. In here is the talk about fire hydrants.
Yes,
That's where we wanna get to, but that's gonna take probably 30, 40, $50 million of water infrastructure just to get all of our fire hydrants
so
up to
when
the
we
standards.
hand that over to you,
Correct.
council can do what they need to do.
Well, the first stop will be, is it will have to be reviewed by new legal.
Yeah.
Okay, so legal is gonna have to go through this, because obviously we're not adopting Ruidoso's word for word, so there's gonna have to be a legal review.
Yeah.
The next part of that will be council voting sections up and down that they want. So another example that's not captured in here, I know the Lodgers Tax Committee is going through their short-term rental ordinance right now. And we're using Ruidoso's template there again, because they're,
They're ahead of us.
8 times the size we are, 10 years ahead of us in these things, so we're using them in templates in multiple places. Their short-term rental ordinance actually requires you to have a certified lot before you can get a short-term rental permit. I think we'd like to get there eventually, but until we have a couple of years of certifying lots under our belt, we're not gonna throw that language in there and hope it works. We need to have a very basic, very easy to understand with some carrots in the form of fee reduction. And then make sure that the process works. We don't wanna go out and be so stringent and more prescriptive that either it breaks for some reason we didn't anticipate, or we just have nobody that volunteers to try to certify a
So
lot.
what are we doing right now? What are we doing?
So,
Because we've done this, what are we doing?
are there changes that anyone on the committee would like to see to the document in front of
That
us
we have right now?
that we have right now? Okay,
Well, I mean, my concept with this whole thing is to create a document that Chris and his guys can use as a tool
yep,
to eventually go to each property and say, okay, well, we'd like to see this, this and this, and the landowner says, oh, I object, and they say, well, it's in the ordinance, I have to abide by that.
right.
Right, and that's the type of document that I was looking at making. So,
But-
and then it's up to council if how stringent they want to
It's not us.
administer it. Right, or if they say, okay, it's just gonna be voluntary right now.
Correct.
But
That's council.
we
not us.
are working towards making this something with teeth.
We went through it,
Absolutely.
word by word, last meeting.
Okay.
Yep, the other thing there is we wanna leave enough room in the defensible space for whoever's on site from the village representing, hey, I'm here to help you take all of these words and apply it to your 1 acre.
Right,
That's what
There's-
Ryan helped us do.
There's gotta be some ebb and flow there. There's gotta be some
Exactly.
places where the guy, the expert on the ground can say, based on the lay of your lot, the steepness, everything is, you should really leave those or take those out, that it's not gonna be.
no, and I think that's in here, if you read through it.
Yeah.
Last week he said, no, that's something that can only be done when you show up on site.
Correct, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're never gonna hit everything perfect.
Right.
And so I guess, what does the committee feel that this document is at? Percentage wise, like how much,
We didn't even know if we were gonna meet again. We felt like we were ready
okay,
to bring this forward. Mike, what do you say?
I guess going back to the voluntary nature, and I think that's an excellent way to start. It's such that, and we have a person, hopefully when they get hired, will be a data keeper on lots that meet some codes voluntarily. In other words, they say, I would like to have somebody inspect my lot because I want a $10 reduction in my wildland fee, and we go up and we certify it.
Or they want a letter for insurance.
I think that's the bigger,
That's
yeah,
bigger.
yeah.
That's huge. So in the first phase, I mean, the only thing that I think that.
I've been missing your name.
The thing that the council may think about is, okay, is it just gonna be a reduction? Or sometime in the future, if you don't have to have it inspected, then we're assuming you're out of compliance, and so we raise the fee. I think that's a council decision.
Yeah, that's down the line.
Yeah, now, I think a huge point from an urgency standpoint is the vacant lot, especially in some structures that are gonna be in the path of the Rick Smith $10 million penny. What guidelines are they gonna use? Shouldn't we have some guidelines? I mean, certainly stuff on the ground, dead snags, but there is a part in this that talks about vacant lots. So what guidelines are they gonna be given?
I think
They
that's,
aren't going to be given
they
guidelines.
don't have guidelines. They are professionals. They know what they're doing.
They're just gonna work with the landowner to get, to do it, the way the landowner wants, or not at all.
If it's a vacant lot. I mean, the whole point of the 10 million is to reduce the risk of fire damage. So right in, the middle of this heavily, risky area that goes up a hill and is thick as, dog's hair on the back. My opinion is it's gotta be thin, to some standard. Otherwise, why are we even doing the $10 billion?
Mike, some of this doesn't happen just because we do this DSO. This DSO is one small step towards what you're talking about. We can't legislate, the council can't legislate something so big, so fast. And I'm sure Rick Smith and crew and all of the background checks he's done on contractors, I'm sure they know what they're doing and know how to do it. They're doing it already.
I don't know if that's true. That's my opinion. I think
Okay.
they need to be some kind of
Okay.
guideline.
Mike, Brian wants to speak.
Well, how they do it, so they have in-house people, they have a biologist, ecologist, forester, they have Craig Syme,
Okay,
Rick Smith, and what they do is it's called a practice plan. And they go to the individual house and they make the prescription or the lot, and they make that prescription of that practice plan. And then the loggers, and it's like, say you're building a house, it's like the blueprint for your house, so they come in and make the practice plan. The loggers or the thinners, they come in, they implement the plan, and then there's an inspector that comes in after that. Probably through the state, because the money comes from federal, state, local. Then that inspector says, okay, it's done according to the practice plan, everything is good. pay the contractors.
Yeah.
And so it'll be done on an individual basis.
It's not
because
ours.
It's always variable, like you said, depending on slope, density,
Okay, that's-
location.
that's great, I'm glad.
That's the way it
I'm
goes.
impressed with what you just said. So a person with a structure in that high risk zone that's gonna have that plan done, we are going to assume that they are in compliance without further inspection.
Yeah, that's,
I don't think it'll have anything to do with our compliance. It's just gonna be more voluntary. They're gonna thin the forest, and if they, it'll be good to have this document in place so that the landowner can say, okay, well, with our plan, I should be in compliance, or if they're not, they're gonna have to hire somebody back to do some more. But it'll give, the 10 million is gonna give, I think, the community an opportunity to be more fire safe.
yeah, the Cimarron watershed is in charge of the grant. We're not in charge of
And
it.
they do it up to firewise specifications
yeah.
and all that.
Yeah,
That just needs to be put in our notes that we're not writing this code for the thinning to be done by the federal grant.
Of course not.
No, this is purely municipal code.
Munis-
So is there any reason at this point to slow this document down from either going to a council work session or in front of lawyer?
Yeah, no, it's got significant problems.
Okay, what are those problems?
So I don't know that, we are headed towards, penalties when, as the council, the mayor, has made it clear. And again, we've identified the fact that you've got absent landowners.
Yep.
We also don't have the ability to handle. So if everybody comes into compliance tomorrow, the village has no ability to deal with the slash.
Correct.
The burning doesn't work. Biochar doesn't work. We have to figure out a better way to handle it, and going straight to fining landowners
But
is just, it's silly in my
Well,
opinion.
I agree. So where is the finding in here? Have we worked on the section on fire reduction fees? Is that the finding we're talking about, or is there?
no, we haven't. I don't
Okay.
remember.
We didn't go there
Yeah.
Yeah,
because we thought that was council.
So again.
This is kind of my point from prior to the last work session, is I feel like the village has got to get council on board sooner rather than later. Otherwise, what the committee is doing is just hoping that what it presents to council is compliant. And I'm in a difficult position because I'm an attorney, but I'm not an attorney for the village.
Right,
And I don't want to be in the position of saying, well, that's lawful, that's not, and I'm not an expert in drafting statutes.
sure.
I have my arms around anti-donation, but, not, my municipal experience is not such that I feel real comfortable saying this, that, and the other thing about this ordinance. I do see that, for instance, where the property owners are gonna be assessed fines, increased billing, or other
Where is that?
penalties. So I would suggest a revision along the lines of, should a property not be maintained or otherwise become non-compliant, the property owner will be notified to correct the problem and given a reasonable time frame for compliance.
Where is that, Mark?
So section, first page A, there
So-
is,
If you get to the point
Oh.
where you're talking about, I'd like to see a reasonable time frame for compliance in the beginning, that then as we get, I want to bring people along slowly.
Well, and
I believe the mayor wants that as well.
absolutely.
Okay.
Because if we
Okay.
don't,
Yeah.
we're just gonna break the process again, to your
It's
point.
going, it's just gonna,
100%.
yeah, and we're
Yeah.
gonna be, it's gonna be, a one step forward in the form of the DSO and literally a dozen steps.
100%.
if we're gonna lose the opportunity to bring people along.
Yep.
Where if it's one more, you know, again, I go back to, you know, the guy in Midland, Texas, that's not here, right? He's just gonna go, this is one more piece of paper from Angel Fire
Right.
that says I owe them money.
Right.
And he's gonna ignore it.
Yep.
And so I'd like to just back up on this ordinance, you know, we're looking at Ruidoso as the highest, greatest plan.
Mhm.
And I would suggest that while there are some similarities, there's a lot of good in their statute. You know, this is, the economics here are significantly different than
Sure.
Ruidoso. And you know, just to plagiarize a statute that's in place, I think we owe it to the community to do more than that. And to try to tailor it to what we've got here and what's doable.
Okay.
And again, to get council, once you all pick council, I think you've done that. Or if not, it's happening here shortly. To get them involved right away. You know, I know the firm that I believe you're selecting.
Mhm.
And work with one of their attorneys on the PID. I know that they're extremely capable, and I
Sure.
don't think it will take long for anybody there that they tasked with this to just get right up to speed.
Right.
If council identifies it as you know, significantly important, which I'm sure they will.
So I agree with what Mr. Manley said. Obviously, that is on the agenda for tonight to vote awarding the RFP for new legal services. I understand too the concern, and I shared about just using Ruidoso's ordinance, because again, that ordinance didn't come out of nowhere. It was decades of back and forth and we screwed this up and now we gotta tweak it. And so this, if we adopted Ruidoso's ordinance, it would like we'd be going from 0 to 100 miles an hour, and we're gonna have 10 things that break along the way. So I think some language, and to Mr. Manley's point here, landowner of record will be assessed a fine, increased billing, or other penalties. So there's language in here that talks about fining.
Yeah,
And I would say at a minimum, we are years away from that stage. Because we are just now getting ready to send out an RFP for and I don't know, Captain Romo, how long has that stuff been in the pit? 5 years? Plus?
10 years.
So that's a 5-year hangover of material that we couldn't deal with for whatever reason. They've done a great job of keeping up with all the new stuff coming in, but we're just sending an RFP out to do grinding for that work. We don't know if we're gonna do that year after year. That's gonna be the plan for the short term. We don't know how much material we're gonna generate. So I think as a template, this is a good place to start. Anywhere in here where it deals with timeliness and fining and those types of things probably needs to be struck. And what we should put in its place is this DSO only serves to get you a certification for a lot.
yeah,
Any template language that's in here about fining or timeliness or those types of things is quite frankly inappropriate given the current status of this project. We don't have the capacity, we don't have this before RFP. My understanding is we've had one person apply for the forestry position that, if Mike can still hear me, we've had one person apply that would be the person that does the certification here. I don't know if that continue or not. Right now, the fire wildland team is doing it and that works great, but that is not how Ruidoso is set up long-term. They have a person whose, their main job is going out and doing lot certifications. That's what they do. They also do random inspection, but Ruidoso is again ahead of us in that. So
so you would like something in here that just specifically says, this is for those who want to have a letter of certification.
correct. That strike any of the language that has anything to do with timeliness. I mean,
Yeah,
might we get to where paragraph A is something that we put in the ordinance? Yes. Is that 5 years down the road? I don't know. Is it 10 years down the road? I don't know.
one suggestion would be that you put the wording in there alongside that, where there could be fines and stuff, that may be implemented sometime in the future. To give people a heads up that right now it's voluntary, but fining and, that type of thing may be implemented in the future so that they're not blindsided by
Sure.
it 5 years from now.
Correct.
I mean, whatever that time frame may be, and it actually gives people just a little more of a jab.
Right.
But
So-
not too much.
But, right, there's nothing spelled out in, that this will happen at such and such a date. It just gives council, the ability to implement it in the future and not blindside everybody.
Right, and so what we'd like to get to is something that we could pass this year,
Right,
that could start to be worked on if there's any thinning season left. But by the time this is passed, great, maybe we have the ability to certify someone's lot as the first one this year.
Mhm.
But time is short, right? We're
Yeah.
August, we really only have
Few months.
Two-
This is actually the best time to start.
3 months.
Yeah.
You wanna cut wood from August to February.
So I would like to see, because what is basically in here, technical standards that I'm not qualified to assess. We have some people here that may be, but the big hangup from a municipal's perspective is we don't wanna build something that's gonna break. We don't wanna build something that's going to over encumber people or fine people, and we don't wanna do that for a while.
Right.
Because we've
You
been
made that
so.
very clear.
We've been
Yeah.
so unsuccessful in this process, and that's no one's particular fault.
Oh, yeah.
But this process needs to come out of the gate and crawl and then walk long before it runs. And so one of the things we could put in there is, the language of
I like.
for a
that.
period of no less than 5 years, or for a period of no less than whatever, this program shall provide lot certifications on a fee reduction basis only. So remove any of the fining language from out
I
of
like
here.
that.
Are there other major deficiencies, Mark, that you see that couldn't be addressed in manners such as that?
Yeah, I'm trying to do a little research on putting a type of a warning in. To say, kind of, here's what's coming,
Right,
right? There are provisions you can put into an ordinance, I think we're all aware of, in terms of, you get a warning.
right,
Before the penalties kick in. I'm having a hard time figuring
Sure,
out if we can do sort of, hey, here's what we're focused on.
right,
But everybody in the community understand that here's where the focus is gonna be 3 years from now, 5 years from now, and so on, and
Yeah.
into the future. And that's, again, that municipal attorney would be able to answer that
Well,
the
and-
right
and-
way.
Yeah.
I think, go ahead.
well, I was gonna say. I think we're all headed to the same point,
Yeah.
that putting language like that in an ordinance is gonna be tricky. It's almost more appropriate for like a comprehensive plan.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. And the other thing would be, we want to engage the community,
Yep.
right? We want to get people to understand. Collect, it's much better if it's not viewed as, here's the village gonna enforce something.
Right,
But to bring them along.
right,
From a community sense, hey, we really need to do this. If you
Yep.
lived past any of the fires, I've only been here for 4 years.
yep,
The one I lived through was horrible,
right,
right? And I've heard from Dan Rakes about other ones in the past. So obviously we wanna tap into that sense and get people to come along and want to do this as opposed to being told to do it.
sure.
Well,
Well, I agree, and that's why I say it, and I reiterate, the only thing I've heard from the mayor and other council that we're ready to support at this point is a reduction of fees.
Yeah.
And
if
the
you
letter,
become into
letter.
compliance.
if you come into compliance. So if you come into compliance, this is going to save you some $100 a year, maybe. This is not a big carrot. In
No,
my mind, the bigger carrot is the certification letter.
Sure, and if your insurance company is requiring a certification letter, you have different motivation.
For sure.
Right? I somehow have not run into that.
And
Yeah.
I have not either.
Yeah,
But-
but I do know people in the community that
Yep.
have. And I said, here's how to get a hold of my insurance agent. I don't know what else to tell them.
Sure,
But yeah, and I would imagine that, large carriers have, metrics and analysis to say, okay, State Farm, we insure too many houses in this area. So we're gonna pump the brakes on insuring any more houses, in Angel Fire. And slowly, you're gonna have more and more companies that are in that position. And then it may get exceedingly difficult, to insure at all, new homes. Then we've got a big problem. My sense is we're a ways away from that yet.
Yep.
But that's not much comfort for people that are saying, that are hearing from their insurance, that, hey, we're gonna drop you. If you don't have a certification letter from the municipality, how many miles are you away from the closest fire station? All the things that insurance companies love to torture homeowners with.
Yep.
To say, okay, we're gonna drop you, or we're gonna double your rate. So I think educating people, like,
Yep.
there's people out there, I know my parents wouldn't even be aware of anything I just said.
sure,
They'd look at the bill and go, oh, that stinks.
right,
But they don't know what, and I think a lot of people in the community they're just focused on other things.
Right.
So again, trying to educate, okay, yeah, you're gonna get a $15 a month reduction. Does that justify spending $2,500 on your lot? For a lot of people, they're gonna go, no. But to educate them that, well, yeah, you're gonna save $15 a month, but you're also, if you have a structure, so you see where I'm going.
sure,
I
sure.
think the ordinance needs to kind of focus on those things.
So,
A lot's been said about the fee.
mhm,
What is a fee being used for today?
the wildland. So the wildland fee goes to fund the wildland fire department now.
But not to pick up slash?
That is because Slash is right now under the wildland department, that is all in there, yes,
Originally, it was to pick up slash,
correct.
and they changed it from year to year to do other things.
So right,
At this point, is it back into slash pickup?
correct. So we have two grapple trucks, one of them is down, and we have one grapple truck driver. So, that individual, the equipment, the salary, all of those things are paid for out of the wildland fees. We
Okay,
would like to get a second guy, because we already have the second truck, and we could pick up twice as much.
okay,
Chris?
well, that
We
fee,
did get a second guy, but he's part of the wildland team, and he's currently deployed in Oregon, but once he gets back, things start to settle, we'll get the second grapple going.
okay, that fee is great to pick up slash
Mhm.
because it's constantly coming out.
Yep.
Limbs break off trees, you rake it up, you make a little pile of slash. To reduce that fee to me means nothing. I'd rather be able to clean up my yard, put the slash out, have it picked up. And also, I'd like to see them pick up along the road as they go. The slash that's put out by people who don't apparently live here that much. And they put it out, but they don't go to the.
They don't get a
the
permit.
Permit, but they're paying the fee.
Correct.
So why not, let's just start picking up those miscellaneous.
There's piles left from when the city wasn't picking up
Right.
10 years ago.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
still piles.
There's
And
no-
and with that one, if I could, right now, when the landowner wants to either take the slash to it or we pick it up, there's a waiting list. So there's a list that we go down block by block, so we might have to pick up on Brazos and then come to another. And we see it there, but we have to go with what's in our
Yeah, I know, there's one
Well-
permit on my street that's been there for 2 years now.
Why,
It was put out prior.
why is that? Because, you know, UPS drivers, right?
They're-
They go on their most efficient route that the
That's how-
AI program says,
Those guys are
right?
complaining, we have to get who's in the list and by which.
But again, why do we do that? Because that's
Yeah.
clearly not
Right.
efficient,
I
it's
agree.
more expensive.
And then those people, like you said, might not call in, so those people on,
Then
the
there's a pile that stays there.
or sometimes
year after
it's,
year.
Well,
it might look like slash, but it's dirty and we
Right,
can't. we
yeah,
can't-
you can't pick up dirty,
But
right?
John,
So,
I don't mind paying that fee.
I don't
I
either.
just think there are a few people, if we're trying to do voluntary compliance, there are people who just love to have a little discount. And why not reach them? But the problem is that we're not penalizing. So if you give them that discount, you supposedly raise someone else's. And so I think maybe we don't do that right away.
So the thought process there was in order to keep, because we're collecting a certain amount of wildland money every year based on that fee.
Okay,
And if we certify your lot and your lot goes down, that's less money that the village of Angel Fire is
Right.
taking in to pay for the wildland team and the slash pickups and all of these things. And so the thinking there was by shifting your $15 of savings to your $15 of cost, which we've had the discussions of in a work session, this would not be an instantaneous thing. You
Okay.
certify your lot, your fee is not going down right away because we would have to then
yeah.
change the resolution once every month to drop your fees by $15 and raise everybody else's by a penny. So this is likely going to end up being a once a year shot where we go in and redo the resolution, reaffirming what the wildland fees are, because that's how the fee is collected. The fee is created via the municipal code, but the actual dollar amount is set via resolution, okay?
Do you see though, that what we're paying now, as Donna said, we don't mind paying it.
Correct.
Do you see as we go forward that the fee would go up because we're gonna get the kind of equipment to
Yeah.
deal with it? So when you're, I mean, do you see, I mean, where we, I mean, right now I'm at 10 per month,
Mhm.
which I don't have a problem with that.
Sure.
Because I've used that program exhaustive, I mean,
Right.
way over. So I just don't see
Yeah,
how that, I mean, $10, who cares? You know, but if the people that aren't in compliance someday are paying 100, there's gonna be some care there.
Well, and I think it's a very excellent point. Maybe we dump the fee reduction out for this year
yes,
because it's convoluted.
yes.
Keep the fees where they are because I think one of the challenges we have, and this is, it's a wildland team challenge. Those guys are out on deployment and glad for it. It's their skill set, it makes the village money, there's all the reasons in the world to keep doing that. But that means that we don't necessarily have somebody here picking up slash because they're out doing other things. By leaving those fees higher for everyone, it leaves us with a larger pool of money to hopefully get another Josh. Get another guy that's here whose job day in and day out is what Mr. Manley's talking about. Hey, you're in that grapple truck. It's just like a guy who's in a road grader. He gets in, he gets his implement, he goes. Hopefully, I think Mr. Manley's got a great point about if you drive past 5 piles just to be picked up later, that's not a great use of time. We should be just cleaning those roads as the truck is going up. So if that's easier to wrap our hands around, if we don't do if all we do is the letter out of this, I think that's fine.
That's a good way to start.
Yeah, I think the certification is the care, I think that's the most important thing we can offer.
Yes,
With that insurance thing, I know dozens of people that have been affected by that and their rates have gone up
all right.
3 or 4 times.
Well, it certainly would be easier for the village to administer, because we've had discussions about, okay, how are we going to do the math on recalculating fees
Right.
year after year
I
after year?
think
That's down the line.
the people that want, or need some statement, letter, certification for their insurance company, forget the fee.
Well,
at this point.
you could also then go to paragraph A and say all properties seeking certification letter to meet the defensible space ordinance shall meet the following zones and stop.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
Yes,
Rip
yes.
out every other sentence after that,
yes,
so that the rest of this document is just technical information after technical information, zone after zone. Nobody's worried about there being a fine
I'll make
associated.
those changes and send them out.
I think it would be great, because the other thing we don't know, and everyone's brought this point up, we may get this letter out there and get 8 people and we've not created any problems. We may get the letter and get 800 people that decide to thin their lot over the next 12 months. And we have to press the panic button about, oh no, we're gonna have to have somebody grinding or we're gonna have back to the material part of the problem.
I just don't think we will.
But we don't know. In other words, and I think to Mr. Manley's point, we don't wanna build a system that we all get excited about and put the word out, and then July of 25, we have to shut it down, it's broken again.
I know that happened about 34 years ago when we passed that ordinance about. You have, if you have less than an acre, you have 1 year to clean it up and
Right.
right up well, then all of a sudden. Slash just came cursing out.
Is this in
Right.
That's where that pile came from that you're having to pay a
Because-
fortune to get rid of now.
The other part here, and again, I wanna be clear, I am not against short-term rentals at all. But the other way that we may see more compliance on this is if we're 3 years down the road, we find nobody, we've reduced nobody's fees. And we add the language in of to get a short-term rental, you must have a certified lot. Well, that's a big deal,
All we're doing is just starting,
correct?
and that's all we're doing. There are lots of other committees that are working in our direction. Yes, sir.
I have a question, and I'll have this material, but is there a definition of what a certified lot looks like? What the characteristics of it?
So-
In this document,
There's 4 pages of different zones there as it relates to your property, how close in zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. And that defines what fuels may be in which zone. So this document essentially is how you would get to having a certified lot. You'd have to meet all of the technical distances and.
Well, my question is, if you're trying to introduce this to the community, I mean, why can't, we've done a really good job, I think, of cleaning our lot, because I'm worried about the adjacent lot, being a
Right.
mess. What about, as you're trying to introduce this, is to, let homeowners come to you, get a certification of their lot, post it on your lot that, hey, Angel Fire regards this lot as a certified lot. So that people start understanding that, this is gonna be an advantage for me if I have a certified lot. It's gonna reduce the risk, gonna reduce my insurance probably, and it's probably gonna be more valuable if I sell it.
Yeah,
So introduce it that way. And so that there's an education process before you start implementing all these fines.
I love the plaque. That's our plan.
Okay, well,
We never, from the beginning, have we wanted to, well, maybe.
I mean, I'd be very curious to know whether we've done the job to get it to where
Correct.
this certified lot description is gonna look like.
Wouldn't it be great to have a little plaque? on-
And I'll volunteer my lot if somebody wants to come out and tell me. I mean, maybe there's something I haven't done to make it.
So one thing to keep in mind, there is a defensible space ordinance on the books for Angel Fire right now.
Right.
It hasn't been enforced in how many years?
Never.
Yeah,
So essentially, we have no process to certify your lot today.
Oh, okay.
Only passing a document such as this or going back and revising the existing ordinance would give us the ability to certify your lot. So without any action, we can't do what you're asking for. So this is all about creating the process to do exactly what you want. Now, your wrinkle of posting on the lot is interesting. The other way to do that would be creating a community map on the website of here are lots that have been certified.
Well, and I think at some point, there ought to be an advantage to the homeowner who has done their job to try to lessen the fire risk.
right.
And so if you can reward that person some way, recognize them some way. I think that's a good first.
And that's what they were talking about, lowering your fee.
I don't care about.
But,
Well, but see, what
well,
we-
I mean, but that was the
But
carrot.
it's
That was
one way.
one of the-
It also initially was talked about if your fee goes down $10, his goes up $10, and we distribute your savings. You know, because it's gonna be cost neutral for the village, because we need those monies
Right.
to fund all the activities. But if the committee feels like that's just too much to craft, that's totally fine.
Well, that's where, as Mark said, that becomes the penalty,
Correct.
and I'm not for sure. It would, I mean, you could really. Especially the larger landowners, it would be pretty expensive.
So, other than paragraph A, which thank you for pointing out is obvious,
Yeah,
are there other sections? If we're gonna take this document to a council work session, to let all of the council members chew over it and then send it on to legal, are there other major revisions?
Yeah, and apologies.
No, you're fine.
No, I'm gonna have to go. I have
Yep.
a standing 10 o'clock, that I'm always late for. Like I said, you know, I do think that getting your council involved, quickly, will help us be sort of more efficient as opposed to, you know, passing the document to council going, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Like,
Understood.
I'd like to get something that the village attorney has at least looked at from the, you know, from the standpoint of, okay, I've got direction from this committee, I've got direction from council and from the mayor. And then they begin to work on the document, sort of in earnest to get it legally compliant and enforceable with what all the stakeholders want. And think is useful. Before I run, I did want to just circle back on the certification. What if a homeowner calls the village and says, hey, my insurance company just dumped me?
Mhm.
Or they said they're gonna dump me. You know, is there a certification program? Like, what do we tell them? Is there if a homeowner really needed a certification, you know, quick, what would the village do?
would it be Chris?
Nothing
So
right now, there's no.
What we're doing now is, you know, they'll make the call to a village hall or fire department.
Yeah.
And they'll get a hold of me and I'll go off this fire hazard danger rating form. Me or my guys, and we do that and then we see if they're compliant. That's what I was gonna say, that needs to be changed because our form is not what's in this document.
Right,
It's kind of a little different, and then there was something in there that said CWPP plus 20 points. That's
Uh-huh.
throwing everyone into the extreme, which that doesn't look good, and their house is very defensible, and their structure itself is made out of fire, you know, resistant material.
Sure.
So what we're doing is, I'm telling my guys, don't even put that 20 points in, and then there's a risk reduction factor in our form, that's not in this one. So if they go and they clear their eaves, if they, you know,
Sure.
move around, you know, be more fire adaptive, more defensible, then we give them points for that.
well, let's say somebody just has a very minimal amount of work to
Yeah.
be compliant with that. What do you guys issue, like, if they do it?
So we're just
right?
giving them copies of the risk rating, but what I'm telling you now
Yeah.
is every insurance agent company I worked for or worked with.
Yeah.
They're not taking it. They want a letter from us.
Right.
With our letterhead, which I'm generating.
You are,
Saying they are in compliance.
okay,
And then I've been fighting them too. I said, well, why are you guys going over, what's in the national? I assume this is national recognized through NFPA. That's where you guys got this. And you guys are saying you need more. And they're all, well, it's our standards. So they're
Right.
making up their own standards.
yeah,
And I said, that's not in compliance with national, state regulations and that kind of backs them off. And I said, according to our standards, our forms and my experience, these guys are at low risk. And our CWPP, and I'll send them the map of our CWPP, the risk, the community risk rating. And I'll say, based off of this map, they're showing a low to moderate
Right.
you know, community at risk, and you guys are saying they're high, and then, oh no, we retract and we'll give them
Chief,
insurance.
is that something that can be changed, that document used by the wildland?
I haven't seen anyone. Good morning, by the way, Jason, the fire chief that started yesterday, so.
Jason, what's your last name?
Vance, VANCE.
Welcome. Yeah, thank you. And I'll get with you on it. I brought it up to Aaron, but, you know, he was busy.
Chris and I just met yesterday, have a lot to catch up
Yeah, we'll
on.
catch up on it.
It's like taking sips of water out of a fire hydrant. I'd have to evaluate both of those, but it sounds reasonable if, you know, we're government
So
local.
that it's all,
So the problem, some of the homeowners that I'm familiar with that have had their insurance canceled, the insurance companies bring their own inspector.
Right.
And they walk the property, take
Yeah.
pictures, they go back, the underwriter, they meet, they send out the letter, sorry.
Yeah.
And then when they do get insurance. 1,300 a year, up to 4,500, tripled. With a different carrier at, high risk. and whatever.
Yeah, if you get canceled, then you're
it's.
It's bad.
you're in the database
done-
at that point.
And then, this one property is a 30-year home that has done mitigation over the years, has done.
Right,
This property owner has done a lot of thinning and, I think he would get. Chris is okay, you're fine.
Yeah.
But this insurance
So-
company,
so what,
there's an X
yeah,
on the map.
no, there's no
We're
question.
under-
Which,
Yeah.
which insurance company was that?
I believe it is Liberty.
Oh, I don't think I've done a Liberty.
All right.
Yeah.
It's mainly State Farm and they back off. Once I tell them what certification, do you guys have Firewise, NFPA, they're like, oh, it's our own standards that we put these
Yeah.
guys through the
Yeah.
training. And I said, that's not,
But,
that's not.
but I'm with State Farm and I'm good. But the same homeowner, I gave him my State Farm connection in Dallas. And they flat, when he called, they said, we are not covering any more homes in your area.
Yeah, it's bad.
And they said something about being too close to the national forest. I mean, it's like, they have a list of things. that they-
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, okay, let's pick that
Yeah.
one and
Yeah.
that one as a reason
So-
why to cancel you. Yeah, it's
So
unfortunate.
everybody in this room should be prepared to get a letter.
But just to close the loop, and I do have to run, for folks that are in that position, they should contact the
fire
village, yeah, the fire department, and then it sounds like you've dealt with this,
Oh, yeah.
you know, several times already, and
Past 2 years. Yeah.
and can help, you know, somebody kind of understand
Yeah.
again to the education piece on this, you know, I think there's, you know, for folks that have been canceled, like there's this panic, right? And for them to know that the village can, you know, not only can respond to this, but has in the past and has been
Yeah, they're
successful.
backing up.
I don't think people in the community know that right away. So again, you know, not to divert us from the purpose here of the DSO, but the committee should again be focused on
Education.
educating people that there are resources there and, you know, hope is not lost. That you're, you know, but that, you know, there are things that can be done, because we want to be able to.
Well,
help.
maybe we could do a Firewise day and invite people like that. They know what we do and what we offer, you know.
Yeah, getting the information out to folks is, you know, I mean, we all know how people in the community kind of communicate across a few
Oh, yeah.
different Facebook boards, and that's really about it. Maybe this committee can craft something simple
Yeah.
to say, hey, if you're in this position,
That'd be great.
here's how we can help you, or here's where to go to get
Yeah.
help.
Oh, yeah. And the schools too, you know, BJ wants me to start going to the schools and that, and, you know, I'm for it.
Yeah.
I'm for it. Public outreach education.
Okay. Apologies, I gotta run late again, but yeah, and if there is a revision, please.
Oh,
send it
absolutely.
My way, I appreciate
Absolutely, I'm
that.
gonna strike some.
Could I offer?
We appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Mark. We
All your time.
Of course, no problem. Well, I know.
Thanks a lot.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, these are sure.
Full cheers.
Okay, hang on a second, we're just saying goodbye
They
to
just
Mark.
hurried people. I'm not leaving, I'm just standing up.
I don't want you to leave,
No, I
Frank.
don't.
Hang on, Mike, hang on, we're just kind of saying a goodbyes.
All right, sounds good.
Pleasure to meet you.
Welcome.
So, okay, Mike.
Okay, if I followed that last discussion with, Chris, it would seem to me to keep people is that, their inspection guidelines for firewise have gotta be part of our code. Otherwise, I mean, you tell people this is the code and then he comes out and he has a different form of.
Yeah, it is, there is one in our code, or in this code we're looking at, there is one in there. And, we just discussed the fact that we need to make what Chris uses the same as what we have here in the code. So yes, that's just something that has to be worked on for sure, Mike.
And then,
The assessment.
go, I mean, from what I gathered from all the discussion was, we're not moving towards a carrot and stick yet, only a voluntary, if you want compliance letter.
Right.
You'll come inspect it, according to this criteria.
Yes,
We are, okay.
that's where we are right now, because really we don't have the capacity to do more, and we don't, and the point is, people who don't live here all of the time, that they already have enough expenses. I mean, we just don't wanna pile on, we need to go slow on this, and we've talked about this from the very, very beginning, slow go.
Fast forward at least a week to our meeting next Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month, which I'm getting ready to submit an agenda to Rocky.
Yep,
This item should be on there for that type of a recommendation.
well, I think you should put it on there as a consideration for a recommendation, but we have to make these changes that have been recommended, and this has to be sent out again. But I think it ought to be at least on the agenda for us to consider a vote, yeah.
Where we stand, okay.
Yeah, to consider a vote of recommending to council, but we don't know yet
Like
until we,
plan, not a specific detailed plan, but a plan moving forward. Is that what I'm hearing?
yeah, that we would recommend the council take this forward for their review, legal review, that each of them need to, as Jake said, they need to chew through it and really dig down, and then they need to bring in legal counsel.
So
Okay.
are there? And again, I think, I know Mr. Manley's gone, but section A is really his main concern, which I get. And if we can strike that and have it read for DSO certification only,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yes.
Are there any technical deficiencies in the rest of this document?
Scott?
I have a problem with, the no wood chips allowed. There was a forester here at one of our previous meetings that said that taking all the material off the mountain and chipping it somewhere else is leaving your, is not good for the environment.
It says no wood chips? I
Right
think it
here.
says that just in the first 10,
Only in the first
That's
10
zone
feet.
one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
and you don't want wood
Excuse me.
chips next to your house.
Okay, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yeah,
Right,
Well, no, it's, the next one.
okay, let's look at this.
So, sorry, let me ask Captain Romo. Basically, what I'm asking is zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, large tracks. Zone 4, is there anything in here from a certification perspective? Like, the water supply or fire protection is obviously a problem.
Yes.
I would recommend we strike that section because
Yeah.
the village is unable to comply with that and won't be for years. Are there other sections in the bulk of this document that we're gonna be unable to satisfy?
You know,
And the branches touching.
And which
is a
section,
biggie.
which section are you at, sir?
Well,
Branches
it's
touching.
page 4. Page 4 is an example of it.
No standing dead trees allowed. Trees should be pruned where appropriate to meet objectives, may be left unpruned if separation is adequate to prevent fire movement from tree to tree. If zone 4 is used for commercial.
It doesn't. I don't understand what you want.
Well, if you you look around, if you drive the streets here and you look at the trees that have to be removed to keep, the crowns from touching,
Yep,
you're looking at several million trees.
sure.
So it's gonna be a
Yeah.
long, many years before we reach.
Tens of millions of trees.
Yeah,
Yeah, and technically you do, I mean, it's okay to have some touching as long as they're not touching other ones. So you can have groups
You can have clumps.
You've got that.
of
You've got
trees,
all of the above.
but you have to kind of cut around.
You've got pine trees.
We have it all.
Well, and
Aspen trees.
some, Ruidosa specifically leaves some groups of trees clumped together for wildland habitation.
yeah,
For
they
the
allow
animals.
untreated areas.
Well, they say that there should be, 40 trees per acre. That's in the first paragraph up there.
40 square foot of mature density of, yeah, so the goal is to retain a forest environment with a 40 square foot per acre minimum basal area density.
Keep reading.
With a 40.
This translates to 40 14-inch diameter trees per acre when computing minimum required basis. Trees smaller than 14-inch diameter will be projected to grow to a 14-inch diameter. So 40 trees per acre, is that standard we've gotten from somewhere else, or is that applicable to
Oh,
us?
that one.
I mean, obviously a professional forester wrote this document.
Right.
For Ruidoso.
Correct.
So, and that's their standards.
Yeah.
But they're a village with lots, but with, blocks, streets with blocks. We've got 120 miles of street with lots on both sides.
And there shouldn't be a tree on the driveway.
And you
Oh, we
can,
have trees all over. the
and you can
village.
pass one house here and drive several miles before you come to the next house.
So can we strike this last sentence to 40? I don't think we need to say 40 14-inch diameter
Is-
trees per acre, do we?
This is the question. To have a defensible space ordinance, do we need a metric like that in here? Is the first paragraph, obviously the intent is to reduce catastrophic ground, and we understand all that, but
Yeah,
is this a good number for us to use, or should we strike it and not have that specific language in the first paragraph?
If I can interject a 10,000 foot view of this, if some professional forester did that recommendation for southern New Mexico, there may be a different standard because of moisture content in fuels and types of fuels. There may be a recommendation that's different. You may be able to have a higher density because of higher density of fuels or something. So
So,
we can't just place arbitrary numbers
100%.
on there just because we feel like 40 is better than 50 or whatever.
So what if we did this?
We
What,
should probably get a professional recommendation for this area specifically.
yeah,
what if we underline everywhere in the first paragraph, it says 40 and put a question mark?
okay,
And put the question to the state forestry department, or somehow find out what that number should be for
For
our
here.
area.
okay.
And if it's 40, it's 40. If it's 80,
It's a,
go by whatever the state recommendation there is.
thank you,
And
chief.
by the way, on that crown thing, if you remove the trees and got it in compliance with the crown spacing, 10 years from now, you'd have to redo it because the crown.
That's right, that's what
Spread
they
out.
do. in Ruidosa.
That's part of the plan, is
That's-
that it will have to be maintained.
That's
Ruidosa
what, so
does it.
Ruidosa uses their forestry department to inspect 10% of their lots every year.
They've never enforced the law, the plan. In the 10, 15 years that since they started it, they've never enforced it.
Yeah,
They,
they have,
they,
No, they have.
they have.
They
I
have
have
four,
a question to the document, forgive my ignorance, but are we only talking different levels of classification, A, B, C, D, or E, or low risk, medium, high risk, that type of thing? And if your crowns are touching, you're at a higher risk. And so in order to
Absolutely.
mitigate that, you can only drop down to a lower level of critique if you reduce that number of crowning. But if you live in that space where all the crowns are touching, then you're gonna live in that high risk.
which is your total space.
Right now, I think we're just at a pass fail.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are no levels of.
We don't have levels right now. 'cause
No,
we have-
this is just zone distances from the structures or vacant lots. It is not integrated. There is a risk assessment for the village and that has not been integrated into this.
And is it specified within the proximity of the structure, like within 200 feet of this structure, you must have this criteria, but outside of that, it's
That's what-
considered
Yes.
natural.
Yeah, that's what this is. We'll have to get you a copy that.
Yes.
get you
I'll
on
bring
that,
one
so.
to you. Are you on email now?
Yes, ma'am,
Okay,
as of yesterday.
thank you.
The,
And I like what's been said about, and we have to,
Inspector coming,
Okay, right.
my job, so I
Well,
gotta
thanks
go.
for
Thanks,
being
Ray.
here.
Yeah, I'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think to the point of like keeping the fee in place, and then you wonder, like, how long have you been working on your lot, right? Like you said, you pull slash yearly,
10 years,
right? And every year you're doing something,
some, right.
and so you want the truck to come by.
This year I cut down 15 some small dead trees. I have an acre.
Mhm.
15 small dead trees. And I've got the branches pulled off now. I'm ready for you guys to pick them up. And I brought some over to you, but, every year you have
Makes-
some branches fall, you have the snowstorms that come and break branches off of trees. So you have to pick those up. Well, there's always something to do.
That's kind of the way I agree too, and like they're saying with the 10-year, the 5 and 10-year inspection is
Yeah.
that so I don't know if getting rid of the fee altogether. I mean, because it's like you said, for 10, 12 bucks a month. Is kind of worth it, right? And then everybody still has that opportunity to do that. Because you're gonna go out and say, oh, you know what, maybe I do want to cut that tree down, or there's a little tree like this, and every year you're gonna have.
but lowering your fee or eliminating your fee won't take you out of the program.
No,
You'll still be able to
Oh, it's just
utilize
that
the
the other
program.
person-
It just won't cost
Okay.
you because you're in compliance.
I'm in on that, and you can
So-
still use the,
Exactly. It doesn't take you out of the
It
program.
doesn't, it doesn't.
okay, and then it just adds up
correct.
to the
So
other people
so
in the
yeah.
store to say, well,
But
this.
you gotta have the
Yeah.
money to pay for the program.
you do.
Right, well, that's the thing.
And,
it all
and
has
they've
to
got a
stay the
handle
same.
on that. It sounds like,
And that's, so
Yeah.
Rio Dosa did not get rid of their wildland fee for certified lots.
Right,
Because they take that, I think it's $600,000 a year, they give that to a contractor to ship and haul away all of their material
right,
every year.
so that balances.
That cost essentially is still incurred. They're collecting $10 from every lot in the village of Rio Dosa, handing $600,000 to this contractor to take all the material away. It is no longer Rio Dosa's problem.
And they're charging for these lot assessment fees.
That I don't know.
There's right here on that risk checklist on the
Yeah.
bottom left, it says lot assessment fee
Yep.
and then footprint debris fee.
So I know that, again, they're so much further ahead.
Yeah,
They are actually now training their thinning contractors to where they only have to come and do the post inspection.
wow.
In the beginning, they would come and flag all the trees because the contractors weren't sure.
Yeah.
How do I interpret this? What are they gonna be looking for? So they would flag everything and then they would come back and inspect. But they have some contractors who've been doing this 5, 8, 10 years. The contractor knows what the village is looking for, and so they certify the contractor. And then they come back at the end of the process and certify the lot, which is a great process, but it's gonna take us.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Do we
Years to
wanna
get there.
strike this lot assessment fee off of there?
Unless you wanna pay it, I mean, I'm all for that.
Yeah,
I don't think that people would be opposed to paying a few bucks.
well, and again, what you're really paying for there is Captain Romo's signature on some letterhead.
Exactly,
This is,
yeah.
I mean, you're paying for the expertise too, but I think the bigger thing they want is that letter to go to the insurance and his time, so
Yeah.
the fee should really be a cost balance of whoever's doing the
So
inspection.
you think leave it?
I think so.
Okay.
It goes back to the department.
It goes back to the departments, absolutely. So if we're going to pay Captain Romer or somebody else to go out and do that work, will they make a certain amount of money? They have a village vehicle that burns I mean, you're recouping your costs is all you're doing there.
Okay.
And obviously, if you have to go all the way to Martha's house, it's way up there, so.
He is a lot more.
One thing that wasn't taken into consideration originally, they put in a process of picking up the slash. And then they had to dispose of it.
Yep.
They tried grinding it And that didn't work because it ended up with more ground material than they could dispose of. Bob brought the machine to burn it, but burning smoke kind of bothered people. But, and you can't landfill it.
Well, you can, you just have to pay for it, and
Well, that's right,
it's very expensive.
Or find a village
but that
hole in the ground.
final disposal was the element that was never covered.
So I would,
Now we're covering it by
I gotta go, guys.
bringing it in and burning it.
or in this case, going to somebody that has a large tub grinder, contracting them to grind it, and what Riadosa does is they actually contract them to just take it. Once it is on their private lot, that contractor then turns that mulch into compost over the course of several months and sells it. But it is no longer Riadosa's issue.
Right, and that's one final disposal.
Yep,
So there's a price connected,
it is.
and so, but final disposal, there's a price connected. No matter what you do with it, burn it,
Right.
landfill it, chip it.
Scott, did you have some other things? I know you have a lot of.
No, everything else was addressed to here, yep, and it sounds like, oh, yep, no, I'm
Okay.
good.
Okay, other comments, other,
I think we should open ourselves
Oh, wait,
up
wait.
to discussion with, if you take this document, she's gonna adjust it a little bit, take it and your lawyer, whatever village lawyer wants to discuss with us about some changes that need to be made legally.
So,
We're up for
so
discussion in that.
it'll be village.
what I would say is next steps is let's wrap this meeting. Let's have Martha include some of these changes. Let's let our new fire chief and Captain Romo meet each other for more than a day. We will get this document in front of council, the fire department, and hopefully by the time we have our next meeting, we will have some information on the RFP for the removal process as well. So we're still at a rough draft phase, I would say, but let's go ahead and
Yeah.
make the changes and put it in front of a few more people and then come back and say, okay, here's what we think.
Okay, I like that a lot. A comment,
I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Mary Ann McDonald. I'm the chair of the Village Comprehensive Plan.
awesome.
I'd like to sit in occasionally and keep up with what you're up to, but also if you can give me contact information for your chair, we're gonna try to put together a meeting the last week in August where the chairpersons from all the different village committees come together. And we can tell everybody what we're looking for our comp plan, so that that can be part of your committee development. So,
If you'll just give me your information, I'll get
Okay.
that to you. Thank you
Great.
so much, Marianne.
uh-huh.
Appreciate that. Okay, the meeting is adjourned.
Very good.
Thank you all. And Mike,
Yeah.
it's over. Okay, we'll
You
talk
got it?
later. Okay? Bye-bye. We did it.